Hello, David. Welcome to 15 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. Thank you for joining us. In this
I'm glad
space,
to
we
be.
answered. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I'm glad to be back. Still on the road, but go ahead.
In this space, we answer your question about your consulting firm, and we answered your questions. So participate in the discussion. It takes us a minute to see your comments and to see your thoughts. So and also chime in as you see us provide answers. Give your insights to the rest of folks who are in the discussion. We're happy to take questions live as well. And in the meantime, Deidre, why don't you show us the first question that came in? And David, I'm going to give you a minute to welcome you back. And I'm going to take this one.
So you'll do the first one. I appreciate that. I'll read it for you, though. Let's see. We are often asked for and spend hours as a firm agonizing over building very tailored capabilities decks that describe our over 15 years of experience. These decks are frequently sent by people we know well to potential clients. It's hit or miss. Sometimes we present our decks and the conversations are lukewarm with no follow-up. How do we build them to get better traction? Wow. Okay. So Daniel asked this question. What do you think, Maria Isabel? That's an interesting one.
Well, thank you, Daniel, for your question. Not surprised, right, that you're getting hit or miss responses because you're basically going in blind. You're sending a deck and blind. You don't even know from what you wrote. I got her. Most times you don't even know who you're sending the deck to. So not our favorite thing, not my favorite thing. If your industry requires you to send something, build a one-pager, right? Basically, your 30-second firm overview, which is your fishing line. What's your view of the world, your core model, your impact, and even better if it has testimonials that add credibility to the firm and the work your firm delivers. That's it. For anything else, ask for an initial conversation instead of just sending a document so that you get to know the person for a little bit, right? So any effort that you put into a deck after that at least ensures that it's tailor-made for them and it shows that you listen to their specific problem and that you solve a problem for someone that's exactly like them, which is what most people want to know, right? Have you solved this problem before, and have you solved them for someone that looks exactly like me? So best introductory decks we know get traction because they are focused on the problems, the people, and the impact of the work. And they resonate with the problems and the impact the folks who are reading the decks want to see in their organization. David, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, fundamentally, I mean, it's interesting. So obviously, we agree. The way, at least I read that, is the Daniel's firm is upside down in the approach, right? They're trying to describe themselves. They say they agonize over explaining, their 15 years of experience. Like, who cares about your 15 years of experience? In general, this sort of cold outreach doesn't work. However, when it does work, it's because you're not focused on you, you're focused on the market and the market's needs. And the one format we've seen have any kind of success rate is an aggressive reframe. Right? So if you go in with a really strong understanding of the market need and say, this is your need, but you're thinking about it wrong, right. That will sometimes get some traction. But yeah, it's typically not how we'd advise going in to sell six-figure work anyway.
And in some industries, it's pretty common to ask for pitch decks before even the first meetings, right? And what we're suggesting, Daniel, if that is your industry, which we don't know, still right. Push back against it, right? Ask for a conversation even ahead of that and make whatever deck you end up sending before a meeting, after a meeting, at any point, more about them than it is about you. Yeah. And of course, you're talking about your work in any case. All right. And thank you, John, for chiming in. Exactly. A
Great.
warm.
And happy December, John. And I assume that's Carol because it says LinkedIn user. That seems to usually be Carol.
And Susan, you have a question for us. All right.
How deep into a relationship do you suggest asking? Your great question about who is the most interesting person you've met in the last 2 or 3 months, and then asking to be introduced. You want me to do that one, or you want to do that one?
Sure, go ahead, go for it.
How deep into the relationship? About half an hour. That's how deep you need to be. You can literally ask that at the end of a very first conversation with someone, assuming you've had a good conversation. You say, this has been freaking amazing. I mean, I have so enjoyed meeting you, getting to know you. So I have a couple of requests, a couple of thoughts. First, can we continue this conversation? I would love to chat with you again. And then whatever's appropriate, right? Whether it's a month or next quarter or 6 months. And here's the second thought, because you've been so fun to talk to. Who have you met in the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks, even, that you've really enjoyed chatting with? I mean, just like think about who you've talked to in the last few weeks, or look at your calendar. Who pops out at you? Great. I would love to talk with that person, because obviously talking with you is great and you're talking to interesting people. Would you be willing to broker an introduction? You could literally do that in the first call. You do not need to have a deep relationship. You just have to have a relationship that feels trusting, right? Where they understand now that you're not going in to sell, you're going in to create relationships, to nurture, to meet people, to build bonds. Isabel, do you come at that differently or from the same place?
I agree. I think the nuance, which is an important one, is that you've already set up a conversation where the relationship is not about selling.
Yeah.
If you haven't done that successfully, if you haven't said that kind of common understanding that the relationship is not about selling, then you haven't reached the point where you can ask for introductions yet. That's a necessary requirement before you can ask for introductions. Otherwise, people are going to react assuming you want. Let's work through the next question on our list. Deidre, can you please share? Okay, this question is for you, David. A client we do a lot of work with asked if we could help find a resource for a temporary position while they recruit a permanent team member. They think if we provide and oversee a consultant, they'll launch a better search to find their ideal fit. This isn't what we typically do, but will help because the client is important to us and we know a great candidate. How do we think about pricing this project?
Wow. So this isn't consulting. Right. This is staff aug, kind of temporary staff aug, which is, I mean, this is actually typically a good situation, right? Because it means you have some influence over the position and over what's going on. So I'm of two minds on this, and Rizabel, it'll be interesting to see where you come out. One is, I mean, if you're just placing people, you're not a placement company, right? You're not a search company. And if you know someone that would be a good fit, I would typically do that without fee. But that's different from this sort of temporary staff aug piece where you're going to have some oversight. And I would fold that under this whole idea of where when you can give away what other people charge for, because you charge for something different, that's extremely powerful. The situation as it was described here, though, I think it's more temporary, right? And there's an oversight component, which means you do need to take some fee, but don't think of it as a consulting project. Think of it as a staff aug, which means if you're putting in somebody for $5,000 a month, then you are probably going to ask for $6,000 a month, right? Because that 20%-ish gives you the room to find the person, oversee the person, have a little bit of margin. But this is not consulting where you put, if you have a person that costs you $5,000, you want to be, hopefully your fees are at least 10 or 12 or more. Right. where your gross margins are 50 or 55 or 60 or 65%. That's my thought. I wouldn't think about this as consulting. I would think about it as staff aug and 20% ish margin on a monthly kind of basis. Isabel, similar, different?
I'm completely with you on that one. For me, what tips the scales on this question is they want to take their time to find the candidate that is a perfect fit, and also they want oversight, right, of this temporary position, which makes me assume, and perhaps it's an incorrect assumption, and we'll get corrected if we're making the wrong choices right here. But makes me assume this person somehow touches projects that are already going on, given the context of the question. So in that case, your margins shouldn't be what they are in projects that you're fully running, but you should have a margin, and 20% is a great margin.
Okay. Did we answer all John's questions?
I think we did.
Okay.
Right.
Good. I just want to make sure. All right.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So let's do another question. I did this one, so you do the next one.
All right.
Deidre, what do we have in the bag? As part of our 2024 firm building efforts, we've done a few initiatives on culture that have reset the ways we embed our values into our recruiting and onboarding practices. Okay, good for you. We're receiving positive feedback from every new recruit and are getting good traction. Also excellent. As we plan for 2025, what are ways to ensure our values don't just come up within our culture initiatives, but are embedded into our consulting practices? All right, so that's from Liz. I really love that question. It's sort of a funny question because we do a lot of this in our culture work. What do you think, Maria Isabel?
We do. And congratulations, Liz. What you've done, it's not easy to do, and you're getting positive feedback from it, which is also unsurprising, right? Any piece that you do with work, with values, with culture, you see the impact of it right away in organizations. And we're glad that you're seeing it and that you're thinking ahead about 2025. Absolutely. So 2 parallel approaches come to mind. And for me, they're equally as important. So I would prioritize them both as it comes to thinking of 2025. When you think about embedding values into your consulting practices, what we found works really well is, one, thinking about the day-to-day of a consultant. How do you actually, for your consultants, how do the values show up in their work? If they're not showing up in their work, how should they show up in their work, right? And do they have the tools? Do they have the time? Do they have the frameworks? Do they have the administrative support that they need so that the values show up at their best in their works? So you basically systemize how you embed the values in their work. That's piece number 1. So you grab your values, you grab kind of the processes, systems, tools, support, infrastructure of the work, and you mesh the two to the maximum extent possible. That's piece number 1. Piece number 2, when you think about values, and it's also an important one, is you embed values into how you track performance. And this one is often overlooked. So 2 ways to do it. One is you say, okay, we're going to put an element that we're going to assess that say, how are we performing? How is each individual, each consultant performing against values? Another one is you pick 1 or 2 values and you say, these are the values we're assessing this year. And then you assess every single consultant performance against those 2 particular values. And then come next year, you switch. All right, Liz, let us know how it goes using those 2. I'm curious to know how it goes for you.
Yeah.
David, what do you think? I think we're up at time.
Yeah, we're at time. So we'll continue next time. If people have more questions about this next time, thank you for asking questions. Thank you for being here and joining us and having fun questions for me as I got back from vacation and spending 15 minutes with us. Before you go, let's do a few things. First, on the off chance you don't have davidafales.com/Monday Live on your calendar, put it on your calendar. That way you're here with us every Monday. Second, if you're not subscribed, well, subscribe and get the weekly articles, because they're always fun, and there's room for you to add your comments and add your say, and we want to see what you have to say. And one more thing, particularly important this week, because we're going to open registration tomorrow. If your firm is under $1 million and you have not been to a solo practice accelerator, like many of the people here who are asking questions, you should come. It's a fantastic program. So Deidre's put the link here, and go to that. And with that, thank you again for joining us, for being with us. Always remember, consulting is not about you, right? Stay right side up. Consulting is about them, your clients, your prospects, all the people you're working with. So give them value and give them kindness, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Ciao. Thank you.